What's happening, YouTube? Jonathan Pariente, the Execution 10 here, coming at you guys with another video. I want to ask you guys to please continue to check and subscribe to my channel for more YouTube videos. And well, week 3 now is upon us in just about 40, no, not 40 minutes, excuse me, about an hour and a half away. A lot of storylines have come out of this week, and of course the big one that just dropped today. Antonio Brown got cut by New England the other day. Not a surprise after more allegations about him emerged from his couple of women that he was working with. They've now come forward that Antonio Brown intimidated them, and you know, it's just becoming a mess for Antonio Brown. And now not only did he get cut by New England, now he's already declared he will not play in the NFL anymore. Tweeted about it, made a whole tweet, and really kind of incredible how far from grace this man's fallen. It really is. He went from one of the best wide receivers in the game, and now he has fallen completely off the cliff, and I don't see him playing in the NFL ever again. It really just kind of comes to that, you know? This guy just let his ego get the better of him. He went from being this great great wide receiver. Everybody loved him. Everybody thought he was everybody idolized him, and he just decided that his talent and his ego just went to his head. It just sometimes tells you, you learn about people over the years. The game can change you. Money can change somebody. It really kind of unlocks the inner greed and the inner evil inside of them. So, well, money was more important to Brown than playing for an NFL team and doing something he loved for a living. So, does Antonio Brown find another job in the NFL? I don't think so. Really sad. Really sad. So that chapter now for Brown has closed, and now as we look forward to the upcoming games of the NFL Week 3, let's get into them right now. And I think we're going to have some very exciting matchups. And let's dive right in. Let's begin with, well, speaking of things, the very first team, the team that just cut Brown, they lead off first. The Jets and the Patriots in Gillette Stadium. And, well, for New England, yeah, losing Antonio Brown is going to hurt. But it's not like it really disrupts their engine. It just kind of, as Antonio Brown would say in his last tweet when the Oakland Raiders cut him, I'm free. Well, now the Patriots are free of Antonio Brown. And for Tom Brady, this is really not going to be anything of a different step for him. Tom Brady will be Tom Brady. The Jets have struggled in Gillette for years, and playing with their third-string quarterback now and being down C.J. Mosley and Quinnen Williams, I just don't see the Jets pulling off a miracle at Gillette. I just don't. So, my prediction, New England will finally give up a touchdown, but will win pretty convincingly, 28-10. Fair score. On to Buffalo we go. Cincinnati and the Buffalo Bills. Andy Dalton against Josh Allen, and Buffalo Bills guys look for real. I don't think they're a team to be messed with anymore. Sean McDermott's done a very good job with that football team, and you've already seen the Bills beat both the Jets and the Giants at the Meadowlands. And when a team is battle-tested on the road early, it really can tell you something about them. And I'll tell you what, Singletary at the running position looks very good. You have Allen who can move the ball, and Buffalo's defense actually looks scary. So the way I look at it now, if you're a Bengals fan, look out for Buffalo. They're dangerous now, and Buffalo, I think, is going to continue that undefeated stretch. They're going to go 3-0, and Andy Dalton, just without A.J. Green, does not look like the same team. Predict this will be a pretty blowout game. Bills will win 31-3, as Andy Dalton will throw for 3 interceptions. Allen will run for a touchdown, throw for 2, and for Buffalo, they'll just continue the good times rolling right now as they will go in and take down by the end of the day, the Bengal fans will be saying who dey, and it won't be the Bengals, they'll be saying they the Bills. And now we keep moving on to our next game, Miami and Dallas. Well, this should be another underdog type matchup, particularly the 23. It'll come down to a big touchdown. Aaron Rodgers will make that touchdown to Davante Adams, and with Aaron Jones as well, I think the Packers are a very deep threat in that NFC North. It's going to go through them once again this year. Moving on to our next match. It's Atlanta and Indy. Game is at Indy, and you have to really look at this in this retrospect. The Falcons, coming off a very emotional win last week over the Eagles. That was the one game I actually did not mention when I was doing my predictions last week. So, my apologies for that one. But I say the Atlanta Falcons are going to win this game. As you know, they play in a very tough NFC South, and the Colts just don't look like the same team without Andrew Luck. I know Brissett's played well, and listen, the Colts have played competitively, and I respect that. But without Andrew Luck, they don't have that deep threat quarterback to get the ball to, and that really kind of hinders T.Y. Hilton a little bit from being the receiver that he is. Marlon Mack's going to be fine. I don't have an issue with the running game, but I just do not see the Colts having enough throughout the year to really make a run in the AFC South. Maybe they'll prove me wrong, but that is the Texans' division as far as I'm concerned. So Atlanta for me, Matt Ryan. I think they're gonna win this game. It won't be like an easy game. It'll be close, but the Falcons will find a way. They'll eke out, I'll say by a touchdown, they win this game. 28-21, the Falcons will win the game. It'll come down to a late touchdown from Matt Ryan to Julio Jones. On to our big rivalry game. Baltimore, Kansas City in Arrowhead. Lamar Jackson against Patrick Mahomes. And you couldn't have asked for a better rivalry between two great quarterbacks that everybody are calling the future of the NFL as far as quarterbacks are concerned. The Ravens learned very well from their loss last year to the Chiefs, and I think the Ravens are going to take that next step forward in this battle of undefeateds. Lamar Jackson is going to have the biggest game of his career. He will beat Patrick Mahomes in Arrowhead. High-scoring game. Ravens will win 35-31, and it will come down to a late touchdown run by Lamar Jackson in the final minutes as the Ravens will pull off the upset victory in the loudest stadium in the league in Arrowhead. Open and shut. I think it'll be the Ravens winning this game. On to our next game. Oakland and Minnesota. That should be a very, very interesting game. Should be interesting. Derek Carr, Kirk Cousins out. Normally I would have said advantage Vikings, but the way Kirk Cousins has played the last 2 weeks, you kind of have to start getting a little nervous if you were a Vikings fan. While the running game, Dalvin Cook, is not a problem, while you have Thielen, while you have Diggs, your team is only as good as its quarterback. And if Cousins, and he's known to choke in big games, this has been a pattern with Cousins since he left Washington. Really, since he's been with Washington, then he came over to the Vikings. He just cannot win a big game when it counts, and you're going up now against a team like the Oakland Raiders, who were not too happy losing their game the other week the way they did to the Chiefs. And I think the Raiders are really going to go out and prove who they are again this week. Derek Carr, you got to like how he's played leading the helm. Darren Waller is the big threat tight end for this team that they're going to throw the ball to a lot. You have Josh Jacobs, really up-and-coming running back who looks really promising. And now a new wide receiver has emerged with Tyrell Williams. So I think the Raiders have a very good shot at pulling off an upset here on the road. And considering how Minnesota's played of late, I think the Raiders will further shatter that psyche. The Raiders will win this game. It'll be about just under by a 10-point lead. The Raiders will win 28-18. Derek Carr will throw for 3 touchdown passes as the Raiders will roll once again. Next game, Detroit and Philly. Well, Lincoln Financial Field. The Lions coming off a big win over the Chargers last week. The Eagles coming off that rough loss to the Falcons on Monday night. It's going to be interesting. Carson Wentz, Matthew Stafford. I think if you are the Eagles, you have to win this game. I just do not see Detroit keeping the winning going. And again, they play in a very competitive NFC North. And that draw to Arizona is going to come back to bite them. I'm telling you now, in one way, shape, or form. They're either going to miss the playoffs because of that loss, or tiebreak, or whatever you want to call it. But missing the playoffs could be one of the biggest things for the Lions because of that draw they just had with the likes of the Cardinals. So, the way I look at this now, I think the Eagles are going to win this game. They need to win. Carson Wentz needs to make that statement. So the Eagles will win this game. It'll be close, like a lot of the games are. Eagles will win 20-17. It'll come down to a late field goal. Okay, now for the start of the 4 o'clock games. First up, Carolina, Arizona. Now, normally in this matchup, I probably would have said advantage Carolina, but the Panthers now are down Cam Newton. He will not play today. They're starting a rookie quarterback against, of course, another rookie quarterback in Kyler Murray. But quietly, Kyler Murray's starting to impress a lot of people. I know the Cardinals don't have any wins to show for it. They have a draw, I mentioned, against the Lions. They have that rough loss last week. But I'll tell you something, Kyler Murray, for what everybody said about him, I think he might be the answer Arizona's been looking for at their quarterback position for quite some time. And, the fact that he has some weapons to throw to, you have David Johnson to run the ball with, you have Christian Kirk, and you have Larry Fitzgerald, the ageless wonder. And, give Cliff Kingsbury some credit with this team. He really has kind of gotten the Cardinals to kind of buy into how he wants them to play. So this will be interesting. It's at Arizona. I think the Cardinals are going to get off the schneid and get their first win. And I think for Carolina now, the last thing they wanted to go was 0-3, but that's kind of where Ron Rivera's crew is heading. Without Cam Newton, they're just not the same offense. So I predict Arizona will win this game. I think Allen will have an okay start to his debut as a quarterback, but I think Arizona is just going to be a little too much for them. Arizona will win this game. It'll be by a 2-possession score, 28-17. Arizona will run the ball a couple times and score. Kyler Murray will make a couple big throws, and Arizona will win 28-17. On to our next game, the Giants and the Buccaneers. It'll be the first game for Jones. Should be a very, very interesting game for Daniel Jones. I'm very curious what he will bring to the table now that Eli Manning has been benched. Going up against the likes of Jameis Winston, I think we're going to see a very, very interesting matchup here. So, the Giant defense, if you've seen them in 2 weeks, have been a complete mess. And, the fact that their defense, as Bart Scott once said, describing how when they beat New England, they couldn't stop a nosebleed or whatever it was. I'm going to go back a little bit on that little interview he gave. I do not see the Giant defense continuing to stop anybody with the way they've played in 2 weeks. They got blown out by Dallas, giving up 45 points. They looked dreadful against Buffalo last week. And the fact that now Eli Manning's not even quarterbacking the team right now, and you're going to go with a rookie in Daniel Jones, the Giants are going to have to really outscore their opponents just to have a chance of winning. Now, on the other side, Jameis Winston's been up and down as a quarterback. He continues to throw interceptions, and you're just really not sure what are you going to get out of him every single week. But looking at this game, I think the Giants, even despite having Jones, I don't see much of a change. If that defense can't even stop Buffalo, and you got blown up by Dallas, I don't see it stopping Tampa Bay. I just don't see it. Buccaneers are going to win this game 28 to... I don't know, I'm getting enough with 28. Let's go a little higher than that. Tampa Bay is going to win 35 to 24. Fair enough. I think the Giants will put up some points, but it won't be enough. Next game, Houston and the Los Angeles Chargers. Well, for Deshaun Watson, this is a pretty big game for himself, going up against a veteran quarterback in Phillip Rivers. A real chance to show how far the Texans have come. And if they're very serious now about winning that AFC South, this is going to be the game to do it. They barely squeaked out a victory over Jacksonville last week, 13-12. Obviously, that was their worst game of the year. I expect the Texans to bounce back from that game in twofold. And I think Deshaun Watson will finally play the game of his career, as he will lead the Texans to victory. Not an easy game it'll be, but it will come down. It'll come down to a field goal. This is going to be that type of game. My prediction: Houston wins 27-24. It'll come down to a game-winning field goal by Fairbairn. That should be a close one, and I think I think DeAndre Hopkins will have a very important game for the Texans in that matchup. On to our next game, New Orleans and Seattle. Well, as I would say with this, you would normally say probably advantage New Orleans, but no Drew Brees. So New Orleans is starting Teddy Bridgewater and playing in the confines of Seattle against Russell Wilson. And the Saints have had their troubles against Seattle in the past in the wild card game. We've not forgotten that wild card game from a few years ago. And I expect that to continue if you are the Saints. They were coming off a humiliating loss to the Rams last week. They still have not recovered from that blown call in the championship game. And when you're going up against Russell Wilson and the Seahawks, it's really an uphill battle. That place is one of the loudest stadiums to play in the NFL. And for me, I see no difference. The Seahawks will win this game pretty convincingly. Seahawks will win, I'm going to say 31-19. Russell Wilson will throw for about 270 yards. Next game, Pittsburgh, San Francisco. Another rookie quarterback will be making his debut. It's Mason Rudolph. Big Ben out for the year with elbow surgery. And, of course, getting thrown into the fire going out west to San Francisco, playing against a rejuvenated Jimmy Garoppolo. Well, I'm not saying Mason Rudolph won't have a good game. I think he'll do some good things for his first game. But the Niners with Jimmy Garoppolo healthy are scary now. Matt Breida, Marquise Goodwin, having the likes of George Kittle, and just really seeing how good a quarterback Garoppolo's become now since he left New England. I think the Niners are going to continue to go on this roll, and I think they're one of the teams that could really challenge the Rams or the Seahawks for the NFC West. Because I actually now, as you look at it, all three of those teams, if they win, go undefeated. If all three of those teams win, we have 3 undefeated teams in the NFC West, and I don't think we've ever had that before in a long time. I predict that the Niners will win this game in pretty good fashion. I'm going to say 27. I'm going to say 27 till about 19. It'll be about a one-possession game. I think Rudolph will have a good game, but he'll throw the one interception, costing the game. Okay, now we go on to our Sunday night game. Oh, wow. The Rams and the Browns. Well, Jared Goff coming off a very impressive victory last week in L.A., defeating the likes of the Saints. The Browns coming off that, romp of the Jets in Monday night. Just one of the worst performances the Jets have played in pretty much since the butt fumble game. I hate to say it, but that was one of their worst games. And the fact they had to go to a third-string quarterback just to have a chance, it was really unfortunate. So Baker Mayfield against Jared Goff, 2 young, very, very young quarterbacks in this league, and very interesting. This is going to be an interesting game. This is really a toss-up for me. If the Browns are really serious now about turning that chapter in their history of failure, this is going to be one of their games where they have to really get over the hump. Baker Mayfield definitely is the quarterback of the future for this team, there's no doubt. But now you're going to be facing one of your big monumental tests, going up against a team that went to the Super Bowl last year with the Rams, and Sean McVay with his very creative offensive play calling. So the way I look at this, who really needs to have this game a little bit more, in my opinion? I would say the Browns. They need to win this game, but I just think the Rams have too much firepower, a little bit more firepower than the Browns, and I think Jared Goff will exploit the weakness of the Browns. They had their little struggles, and the Browns are not going to have Njoku for this game. They're still down their big tight end, and Myles Garrett, you have to be a little concerned if he doesn't hit anybody too hard, if that's going to become flags. And one thing the Browns have done that's a little bit of a problem, penalties. So I predict the Rams are going to find a way with the penalties to squeak out a victory here in Cleveland. It'll be close. They'll win 21-20. It'll come down to a game-winning field goal by Zuerlein, and I think Goff will, he'll make the big throws. Gurley and Cooper Kupp will carry the Rams to victory in this one. And finally, our last game, I guess a change of music never hurts, the Monday night game, Chicago and Washington. Well, this should be a very, I don't know how to describe this matchup, but I think if you are the Bears need a flat-out win. Mitchell Trubisky so far in 2 games does not look good. The fact that the Bears the fact the Bears even won last week was a miracle. They freaking looked dead in the water against Denver, and they had to get a couple penalties to go their way just so Panero could kick a game-winning field goal. And if Mitchell Trubisky's going to get going, this is a game he has to get going, because right now, the Redskins are a desperate team with Case Keenum at the helm, and they need a win flat out. So I think at the end of the day, this will be a close game. I'm going to say the Bears win this game. I think their defense has enough firepower they can shut down the Redskins. And I think this will finally be the game Mitchell Trubisky goes off. Bears will win this game 22-17. I think Trubisky will do enough. He'll throw for about 200 yards. He'll throw for a couple touchdowns. And I think at the end of the day, that'll be enough for the victory. So, those are my predictions for Week 3. Of course, we already had the one game that went final this week. The Jaguars beat the Titans 20-7. Very impressive debut for Gardner Minshew II. And we'll see now what happens with the rest of the NFL games today. Week 3 is just about an hour away. And we'll see who comes away with the victory. Jonathan Pariente, The Education 10, saying bye for now.